Happy Friday, Year 2, and welcome to our final lesson of this week on multiples, on those groups of. And I wonder if anybody can guess the groups that we're looking into today. It's something that we briefly touched on at the start of the week, actually, because we've now looked at twos, we've looked at fives, and today we're going to look at, that's correct, we're going to look at groups of 10 today, because those are the times tables that you guys need to know really well, inside out, by the end of this year. But I wanted to show you something today. Now, I did this very quickly in school, and you guys can do this really nicely and properly, and you can actually have fun making your cards. But this is something that will really help. So I've done mine on post-it notes. I wonder if you can see behind. And I've got multiples of 5, and I've got multiples of 2. Now, I did mine on post-it notes, and it's really important that we can recognise that these numbers are multiples of 2, and we can recognise that these numbers are multiples of 5. And we can also recognise that some numbers, the number 10, for example, is a multiple of 2, but it's also a multiple of 5. You can see that 10 comes here. So it's looking at those relationships as well between numbers. But as well as being able to count fluently, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, that's fantastic. But what can be really helpful is knowing how many groups of 2 goes into that number. So recognising that 12 is a multiple of 2, but also if I turn it around, I've got 6. I've written it really tiny. I've done this very quickly, but there's 6 groups of 2 that go into 12. And what you can do throughout the week, once you've made these cards, these double-sided cards really nicely, is put them up on your bedroom wall, put them in your dining room, and turn them over, or get your grown-up to test you and remove one. I'm just going to try and do one now. And work out what the missing number is. And not only work out what the missing number is, but work out how many groups fit into that number. So I know from doing this so much that the missing number is 14. How many groups of 2 go into 14? I would like you to pause the video now, have a little think, see if you can work it out, and have that discussion with your grown-up or whoever you're doing this maths lesson with. Fantastic. There are 7 groups of 2 in 14. And hopefully with lots and lots of practice, you should be able to do this so quickly by the end of it. Because if we understand how many groups go into each of these numbers, there's 5 and 10, 5 groups of 2 and 10, 4 groups of 2 and 8, it helps us when we move on to bigger maths. I know from working with Year 5 children, when you're starting to look at bigger multiplication and division, having these simple skills is so crucial. That means it's really important to be able to unpick the maths really quickly. So really put lots of effort into this, because it really will help you in the long term. And I will set you a challenge. I wonder if any children can make really nice sets of number cards, and I will choose the best 3 to go on Facebook next week, 1 from each class. So I will ask Mr. Davis and Mr. McInnes to send me a photograph of the best one that he thinks, or if you could take a picture of it somewhere in your house. You don't have to be in the photograph, but we will celebrate that on Facebook next week, because it's so important that we have lots of this practice. Okay, back to me. Let's start this screen share. So I want to go over to MathsBot. Hopefully you can see this. Fantastic. Okay, so we are working in groups of 10 today, and there's something that I hadn't mentioned throughout this lessons, and we're going to come back to this in a minute, and I wonder if anybody can remember. So let's have a quick practice first of all at counting in 10, and as always afterwards you can pause the video and have a little practice at home. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. Have a go at home, pause the video and have a practice. Well done. Really good practice. What we can also do is do our ping pong game again. So I'm going to say a number and you're going to say the next one on from that. 60. You should have said 70. 30. You should have said 40. Brilliant. And you can carry that on at home now by pausing the video. The other way that we can do it is by subtracting 10, where the numbers are getting less, the number is getting lower. So I could say 20, and hopefully you'll say to me 10. Brilliant stuff. So we can play lots of those ping pong games again. But we're going to go back to looking at drawing and to looking at recording our calculations. But I'm also going to add something into the mix today. And hopefully, if you want to recap 2s and 5s, you can have a go at doing this as well, because we've done lots of this at school previously. So first of all, I'm going to think about my groups of 10. Now 10 is a lot, isn't it, to draw in a circle? So I'm going to start off with 3 groups of 10. 3 groups of 10. How many circles do I need to draw, Miss Dyer? 3 groups of 10. It's that key language again. 3 groups. Fantastic. I've got my groups here. 3 groups of 10. There are 10 in each group. So can you turn around whilst I'm doing this to your grown-up and say there are 10 in each group? You can say it to the person next to you. If it's your brother or sister, there are 10 in each group. Really important that we keep repeating that language. I've got my 10 in each group. Let's stop this share so we can go back to me and make it nice and big, because I've failed at doing that before. Okay, so I'm going to write 10 underneath, just to remind me that 10 are in each group. And I want to count the total because I want to work out the product. And I'm writing the total because I'm adding each of these together. So let's do my long calculation first, as you can see, like this. And the total, the product, that is everything all together, let's count together in our 10s. 10, 20, 30. Fabulous. That's right. The answer, 30. But there is a quicker way. And yes, we know that. And we now know our symbol for groups of. So we've got 3. So I've written 3 groups. This symbol means groups of 10. This symbol, okay? 3 groups of 10 is equal to, has a product of 30. Brilliant. What I want you to do now is pause the video and have a go at recording this in lots of different ways. Well done. Some of you might have started with the answer as we've discussed. Some of you might have recorded it like this. Some of you may have had a go at doing division ones. And again, we've talked about this as a challenge, and we'll come back to it and unpick it as the weeks go on, because I really just want you to stay with this if you're still learning with it. Okay, one of the things that I wanted to add into the mix today was, let's just get rid of my multiplication calculation so I can squeeze this in on the board. So I've got my drawing and I've got my addition calculation. But something that we've talked about quite a bit is bar modelling, because bar modelling helps us, and really we should start with this in the first step of the process, because we've talked about this a lot in class. Bar modelling doesn't always necessarily help us work out the answer. All I've got here are my numbers. I've got my whole number and I've got my 3 parts. These are my 3 parts that make my whole number. But by having this bar model first, it helps remind us of the number of calculations that we can use, because we're only ever working with these 4 numbers. And I think that's sometimes where some of us get confused. So if you can have a go at bar modelling with not only multiples of 10, but we've got our 2s and our 5s as well, and having that consolidation practice on a Friday and I can see pictures of those amazing bar models, I will be super, super, super impressed. Okay, something that I wanted to mention before I go and let you have your weekend is some of you have asked for additional challenges. Now, I will stress that this is something that I want children to work on to do if they really are finding the main lessons or these videos quite straightforward. So I don't believe in testing, and I certainly don't promote it within this age group, but I do believe that arithmetic skills are really vital and important. I think that mental maths is brilliant to be able to do. So although I'm showing you a test paper, it's just ideas for you to work on at home and really good practice. So certainly don't use it as a test, but pick out the questioning. These are the existing SATs papers, the old SATs papers, to be able to work on. And how I would use this is by picking out one particular question and using that as a skill to work on throughout the week. So not using this as a test paper to whiz through. So for example, I know that I've got, I hope they don't mind being mentioned, but Evan in my class, Evan's mum messaged me this morning and said they picked out a number 41 and they were looking at 41 as a number and all the different ways that you could build 41 as a number. That's fantastic mastering maths. Really, really excellent. Looking at lots of different ways that you can build that number, so you're really getting that deeper understanding before moving on. And you could use that as a pattern throughout the week, so they could choose another number tomorrow to try and build within under 50 and explore that number. You could look at missing numbers. So here on the test paper, you've got 50 adds something is equal to 80. And you could have a pure investigation and use that as a basis for additional challenge. But I would spend the majority of the week doing similar style questions to this. So don't use this and just whiz through it. If you want to unpick this, they're all online. You can find them if you search them. They'll be all on the government websites. Alternatively, for next week, I'm going to look at snipping this document and putting it on a Word and sending it out to everybody on their class dojos. So I know some of you want that additional challenge. That's absolutely fine. And I think we should be using this time to really work on skills. But let's do it properly and let's do it slowly. I hope that's been helpful. I hope you've all enjoyed this week's maths. Always appreciate the feedback. So if you've got anything for Mr. Davis or Mr. McInnes, then pass it all on and we can look at improving this as we go along. Have a lovely weekend and I will see you all on Monday. Bye.